Making a PowerPoint like this not only looks great, but it's super easy to do. And I'm gonna walk you through all the steps so that you can do it too. Quick reminder to subscribe if you're not already. And if you don't wanna go through all this effort, this and everything else I've done is on my Patreon. With that, let's jump in. So starting from a blank presentation, the first thing we need to do is bring in all of our pictures. So I went over to Unsplash, the Grand Canyon over here, Glen Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, Canyonlands, Antelope Canyon. There's some really cool canyons in the US, but this can be used for any picture, any set of pictures. I'm gonna duplicate this slide. And what we wanna do is insert a rounded rectangle. And this will be the basis of all those pictures on our title slide, as well as what becomes our carousel. We're gonna make that a little bit bigger, and we're gonna open the format pane so that we can remove the line. And we're going to change the fill to a picture fill, but first I need to copy something. So we'll start with the Grand Canyon. I'll copy that right there, Command C, and then we'll go over to picture fill, clipboard. Make sure you unselect rotate with shape so it keeps that same perspective. That's Grand Canyon done. We're gonna go ahead and copy this 4 more times for each of our other pictures. So same thing, we're just gonna Command C and then go over to fill all of these pictures. Great, so now we have our pictures. What I wanna do is kind of organize them in a visually pleasing way. So I want the Grand Canyon to be at the forefront, and we're gonna try and make that horizon line up nicely there. Then we're gonna fill in with a couple of these others that I think are really interesting. So Glen Canyon with Horseshoe Bend, I think is really cool. We're gonna make sure it's the same size, and we'll just align all these different pieces. Finally, we're gonna get both of these, and we wanna select both, size them up. And that's looking great. We need to throw a title on top, and we're gonna use this, like I said, as our backdrop. So we want this to be a lot bigger, and we'll have it move slowly down as we progress the slides. I'm actually gonna make it even bigger so I have more to work with. And I don't want it to be in the forefront. Right now, it kind of gets really busy, so you don't know what to look at. So I wanna blur this background. So to do that, we're gonna select it, and then we're gonna go to this little diamond thing, this little pentagon. We'll select artistic effects, and we'll select the blur effect. You could also do this by going to picture correction sharpness. I like the blur effect personally. It gives you a little bit more control, but you do you, don't let me limit you. So now we just need to throw in our text. I'm gonna grab a text box and we'll say canyons of the US. It's really hard to see, so I'm gonna change it to white, make it all caps, and we'll change the text here in just a minute. I'm gonna center that, Command E, and we're gonna bold the top and make everything a lot bigger, and the top I want to pop even more. All right, we're gonna make canyons something big and blocky like Aroni, and we're gonna make this subtext a little bit smaller, something like Montserrat. So I'm gonna resize these. I want this to be about 50% larger than my subtitle text, and then you can just do Command Shift little bracket to size up everything proportionally. Lastly, since that's kind of hard to see, we're gonna add a drop shadow to make it pop. So we'll select a basic one, drop the transparency, increase the blur until we get it where we like it, and now it pops out really nicely. And that's our title slide done. So we're gonna duplicate that, and the first thing we're gonna do, because we're gonna morph this, is we wanna move this off, and we're gonna highlight the Grand Canyon first. So I'm gonna make sure, we wanna make sure that's at the very front, so I'm gonna go and bring it to front. You can also do Command Shift F, which is what I'm gonna do from now on. And then we wanna move the background down a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and pull everything off, and this will be our highlight. So we're gonna make that a little bit bigger. What I'm looking for is over here. I want this to be about half the screen with 3 points flowing off. It gives that sense of grandeur, scale. We want you to feel immersed. So with that said, the next step that we want to do is create 2 little smaller ones right here on either side. And this will be what eventually grows into the next focus one. So what I want to do is shrink both of these down to a good size. And I'm realizing that it's kind of hard to see the actual slide that I'm working in because this is overflowed. So what I'm gonna do is grab a square, make it the same size as the slide, and we're just gonna bring it forward so I know exactly the shape of the slide that I'm working in. I'm gonna bring that up so that it is aligned with that right there. We're gonna pull that down, and we want this gap to be as close to the same as we can get it. Let's see how that looks. It's a little bit bigger. In fact, we're just gonna make this little corner be right on the edge. So now if we look, both of that gapping should be very close to the same. I'm gonna double check what that looks like really quick by going to transitions, Morph. I just want to make sure that the effect is what we're going for. And that looks great. Now we need to actually have our information text. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to slide that over. And this is the Grand Canyon. And I actually want this subtitle to be its own thing. So I'm going to cut that out, pull over here, we're going to right justify it and set it here. And we're going to throw in some placeholder text. We just need to right justify this as well. And we're going to shrink that down till it's a reasonable size that fits on the slide. It's looking like 90. And I want it to sit right above the center line. Something I'm realizing as well that is missing from each of these, I feel like, is some depth. So I'm gonna add drop shadow to all of these as well. To do that, we'll select all of them and go over to our effects and we'll just throw in that drop shadow again, drop that transparency down, increase that blur. And I'm gonna repeat that and all of these on our first slide. This will add just another layer of depth to it to make it really feel like it's 3 different elements popping out on the screen. It really kind of sells that depth effect. In order for this text to morph in, we just need to make sure it is on this other slide before it. So we'll just pull that off. And then it looks something like this. The last step before we rinse and repeat is just to have that grow effect. So in order to do that, we're gonna duplicate the slide. I'm gonna delete our other canyons because we don't need that. I'm gonna move this text off. We'll end up copying that in just a minute. But the first thing I want to do is to change the size of all these different pictures. So starting with the one that's coming in, we'll size this one first. We're going to line it up on top and we're just going to hold shift and get that where we want. And we're just going to send it back and we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to line it up, hold shift and just make it the same size there. And then do the same thing here. Move it over, size it down, and then pull this one off to the side. We're gonna get this one on deck for the next slide. And now we just have to copy our other text. We'll paste it on, slide it over, holding shift so it stays where we want it. And this is Bryce Canyon. Throw in some fun facts about that and make sure that this text appears on the previous slide so it morphs like we want it to. This is always a good check. If you are not on your last slide and you're morphing before and after, you should have 3 things. You should have the previous slide, the thing that's on the slide, and what is coming from the next slide. So now if we test it out, it has that shrink grow effect as the other things come on. Then you just rinse and repeat until you get something like this. If you like that or thought it was helpful, like, subscribe, comment. Also, if you don't want to go through that effort, this and all my other templates and work are on my Patreon, links in the description, as well as on my bio. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.